Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Number to call, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. I want to play a couple of sound bites from Stephen Smith. This is clips 5 and 6. Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, said some things that were widely criticized as racist. Mark Cuban said, look, if I'm walking down the street and I see a young black guy coming at me wearing a hoodie, I'm going to cross over to the other side of the street just for safety. And he says, I get over to the other side of the street, I'm walking down the sidewalk, and I see a young white guy who's got a shaved head. He's all tatted up. He's got swastikas on there. I'm going to cross the street to the other side. So it wasn't racist. He said, look, I'm taking these cues, and if I see cues there that tell me this could be a problematic situation, I don't know, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, I'm going to take evasive measures. So he was widely accused of being a racist, even though if you think about it, what he said in the end is if I saw a white guy that spooked me, I would rather take my chances on the other side of the street with the black guy that I thought maybe represented some sort of a risk. But anyway, Stephen Smith with ESPN, and Stephen Smith, he's just about had it with this PC business. And so this is pretty strong stuff. I want to play two sound bites. We're playing pretty much back-to-back. But this is Stephen Smith. He's a commentator on ESPN. Let's listen.
So what Mark Cuban was saying was 100% correct. It's just that simple. But the bigger issue that needs to be discussed, it's the big elephant in the room, and nobody wants to touch on it because white folks are scared they're going to be labeled racist. Black folks are scared they're going to be labeled sellouts. See, I tend to look at things a bit differently. You know, I look at our unemployment rate consistently being double that of folks in white America. I do understand that to some degree there's a level of racism that we all have to overcome, and I get all of that. But that doesn't mean every single issue is race-related. Sometimes it is about how you represent yourself. It is about how you present yourself. When I alluded to walking around with your pants hanging below your behind, that's trifling. That's just trifling. And it's counterproductive. When I talked about how you sitting there and the first words out of your mouth is, you know what I'm saying, you know what I mean? No, you ain't saying anything yet. That's a reality. When I talk about not having a command of the English language, and still you want a job, and you want to have a career, but you don't want to get your education. You don't want to go out there and pound that pavement. Everything's about the sprint. It's not about the marathon. It's not about you putting forth the necessary effort and due diligence over the long haul to get the things that you need. That's a reality in our community.
Now here is clip number 2, Stephen Smith. Let's listen.
When we talk about the American dream, you know who I think about? Myself. Hollis, Queens, New York City, left back in the 4th grade, grew up poor. The level of education that I had was a public school system. I ultimately graduate from high school. I go to a historically black institution like Winston-Salem State University. I graduate with honors. There is no journalism program. I still graduate with honors. I still beat out thousands of people to get an internship that ultimately transitioned from a career at the New York Daily News to the Philadelphia Inquirer to CNN and then Fox Sports and then ultimately ESPN. And I'm on national TV every day. Get paid pretty well, I might add. And I'm thinking about the fact that where did I come from? This is the road you've got to climb. You know, everybody can't be Jay-Z. That's 1 in a billion. Everybody can't be Shaq and Kobe. That's 1 in a billion. But you can be Stephen A. Smith. Educate yourself. Work hard. Do what you have to do. Pound that pavement. Be about the business of going for yours and understanding what you have to do to work through the political minefields that waits for you in every step of our lives.
So true.
That's what I'm talking about. And people don't get.
So that's Stephen A. Smith. People don't get that classic Americanism there from Stephen A. Smith. Work hard, get educated, pound the pavement. Don't use obstacles as excuses. Use them as challenges. And you, too, can carve out a successful life in the land of opportunity. All right, let's go to the phones. Let's go to David, Columbus, Ohio. Let's go to David, Columbus, Ohio. Welcome, David. What's on your mind?
Oh, thank you, Brian. Hey, Brian,
2 months before you fell and broke your hip, I had a relative fall, and she broke her hip. And I had a lot of the people in the building that she lived in, telling me that a lot of older people, when they fall and break their hip, that marks the beginning of the end for them. And as it was for my mother, she passed away within 2 months. And you're really blessed, Brian, that you made it back after breaking your hip.
Well, I was still in my 50s when it happened, so maybe that's part of what saved me. And I fell off my scooter, landed on the pavement. The bike just tipped over on me. I was wanting to make sure I kind of came. I was coming off a residential street onto a kind of a main connecting street, and I swung out a little bit too wide to the center line coming out of that residential street. And I saw a car about a half a block down coming in the other lane, and I tried to swerve to make sure I get back to my side of the road. And, man, that bike just went right out from under me, and I just went boom on my right hip, just kind of flew across the street, landed in a ditch on the other side of the road. So anyway, all right, enough of that foolishness. All right, so anyway, David, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, it's great that you're out there. You can play golf now. But I wanted to say something about Tony Braxton, too. I spent a lot of time in front of the abortion clinics. And we had a woman staying with us recently who's had an abortion, and she thinks about her aborted baby all the time. And from some of the things that I've read, a lot of women commit suicide in the years following having an abortion. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize and don't know about, but it does tear these women down.
Mm-hmm.
And they need, for women who've had an abortion, they do need a lot of help, because a lot of them have problems bonding with future children in the future.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot. There's pages and pages of complications from having what they call a safe and legal abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing safe or legal about it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe legal, but there's nothing safe about it. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. All right, Dave, listen, I appreciate that very, very much. And, that's one of the reasons why we want to sound the alarm, is we do not want to see any woman go through what Tony Braxton went through. We all know people, maybe even in our families, immediate families, that have suffered the pain and the anguish and the heartache of an abortion. Now regret it. They can't undo it. They can't unring that bell. And they've had to grapple with that sometimes for years before they come to a place of reconciliation and resolution and peace. We do not want that for anybody. We want to spare women from that anguish. So it's out of love that we declare the truth of what she carries is a baby. Now, if women go through with that, we want to be there to help them and pick up the pieces and help them put the pieces of their lives back together. There's a great curriculum called Surrendering the Secret that's designed to do exactly that thing. Take a woman who's gone through an abortion, has now come to a place where she regrets it and needs to work from where she's at to a place of wholeness and restoration and healing. It can be done. I've seen it with my own eyes. So we want to be involved at every step of the way with women. I've often said when a pregnant woman goes into an abortion clinic, the casualty count is 100% every time. One dead and one wounded. The baby dies. The woman comes out wounded in some ways that she never gets over without the help of God. And we want to be there to provide that help and that mercy in the name of Christ. All right. Thank you, David, for that call. Let's go to Joe in Richmond, Virginia. Joe, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Just wanted to tell you, I really enjoy your show so much, and I enjoy the prayer. Man, I tell you, your prayers are fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, what I wanted to talk to you about is, you talked about the EPA, and they need to be disbanded, and it needs to go to the state level, but part of that is the Environmental Protection Act. And that falls in with the Fish and Wildlife. I see that all the time because I go to Africa. I have a booking agency, and I book hunts and photo safaris. And they are doing so much now to just destroy, a lot of the stuff in Africa, like they just banned elephant in Zimbabwe. And, of course, Mugabe is horrible over there. But, that's hunting is the only thing that keeps those economies going and keeps the game. They use a lot of the money to keep the game rather than poach it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that we need to look at Fish and Wildlife. They're just terrible. And, they've got people that aren't concerned with managing the game, just like they banned the hunting of the polar bear up in Canada for no reason. I mean, there's tons of polar bears, and there's tons of elephants. There's well over 1 million elephants on the African continent. So that's just one thing that, you hadn't talked about that I wanted to mention. Another thing, if you don't mind, I wanted to change the subject a little bit. I just got back from Israel about 3 weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
And I know that you had the guy on. In fact, I have one of his tapes. I apologize for not remembering his name. It was in the city of David.
Yeah.
And we were one of the first
Bob. You talking about Bob Cornuke? Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Bob. Right. I've got a couple of his CDs and one on. I worked in Saudi Arabia for 7.5 years, and I knew about the mountain of God down there, and I just never could get down to it. You need a permit to get down there. I know a lot of the Aramco. In fact, part of his video is the Aramco couple actually found that, and made a lot of it.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to get up there too much, but he did some. Anyway, we were over there, and one of the first ones that they opened up, when they opened up that all the tunnels and everything. I mean, you could go through the Hezekiah's tunnel, but we saw all of that. And I just based on all the Bible study I've done and everything else, I truly believe that. And we went up on the on the mount too, where the mosque is and everything. But I truly believe that he's right. I think that and I think it's going to come out.
Yeah.
That, that Solomon built the temple over on the other side, and it's not where the Temple Mount is considered to be today.
All right, Joe. Listen, I appreciate your call. Thank you very much for that. And what Joe and I were talking about just there is Bob Cornuke suggesting from his archaeological research in Jerusalem that Solomon's temple, Herod's temple, the one that a lot of Christians think need to be rebuilt before Jesus can come back, was not, in fact, located on what we know today as the Temple Mount, but was actually located about 1,000 feet to the south of the Temple Mount, which means the temple could be rebuilt without having to disturb any of the Temple Mount. The Mosque of Omar, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, wouldn't have to be disturbed at all to rebuild the temple. Fascinating from a prophetic standpoint. Focal Point in the FR Talk. We'll be right back.
Dan C.